tẹpá mọ́ṣẹ́ ìkólé lórí oko gidi kólẹ̀ nítorí àwọn ọ̀làrí wọ́n padà bọ̀.
Gbogbo ẹ̀yin àgbà o! Ẹ̀kọ́ ṣàkọọ́lẹ̀ bàbá mi bọ́ọ̀dẹ̀ o!
Ṣáwọn tẹ́ ẹ̀rí kọ́ wa náà rèé.
Ẹgbẹ́ olórí burúkú làwọn ará Ẹ̀gbá o! Ẹgbẹ́ olórí ibú ni àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ ajé kárí nǹkan gidi fọlọ́yọ̀ o.
Ọ wọlé lọ báyìí. Kí lọ yẹ owó?
Mo rò pọpọlọ yín ti ń wẹ̀yìn. Kò lè ṣeé ṣe.
Olúwa mi o! Kábíyèsí o!
Èèyàn kan sọ̀rọ̀ sáláàfin lójú rẹ̀. O sì mọ irú ìyà tó yẹ kó o fi jẹ́. Amúpàdémọdébìnrin kan.
Ìfẹ́ fà mí lọ́kàn ya bí aṣọ. N tó máa fi jẹ́wọ́ pé òkè ìṣọ̀lẹ̀ ìsàlẹ̀ ló wà.
Lisabi, ẹ oko omi sọ wa ń kó wa lọ báyìí.
Ọ̀yẹ́ ìtì kan mi. Lisabi, ìwọ ló kàn.
Hi guys, you are welcome to another episode of Relufe Review, a show where we objectively review the Nigerian art, music, movies, and entertainment in general. And of course, today is another movie review. Now, this one is epic. Like I always say, before I forge ahead, please note that all the views and opinions that I express here are all mine and my personal bias. It's not based on any standard or on any measures. On that note, my name is AY with the double O. And let's get right into the movie for today.
Bí mo ṣe ń wò tó ṣe ń jó yẹn pé kí n bá kan jẹ́ ni. Wọ́n ti dé sí ibi àyè lọ.
Àwọn ìlàrí Ọ̀yọ́ sọ́ra wọn di kókó gbà. Bó ṣe ń jẹ ọ̀rọ̀ rẹ́gun rẹ̀ mọ́.
So the movie we are going to be reviewing today is titled Lisabi. Now, Lisabi is an original Netflix movie and it was produced by Lateef Adedimeji and his wife, Bimpe Adedimeji as well, directed by Ni Akimolayo. So let me take us quickly to the original story because it's an original movie. So the real Lisabi tells the story of Lisabi, who was a skilled farmer back then and he was known as Lisabi Agbumbuakala. He was able to unite the people, Yoruba people, together to fight the oppression of the Oyo Empire back then, and through that he was able to free the people of Egba and give the people of Egba independence, away from the Oyo Empire. That was in the 18th century back then, and which was also what we saw in Lisabi, the movie, Lisabi, the Uprising. So it tells the story of Lisabi, of course, a farmer whose friend was killed. And of course, after the death of his friend, he became angry. And it was after his friend died that we now saw that, okay, he had some eating power somewhere and he was able to unite people together. Initially, he united the people of Egba to come together like, okay, your people are coming to us to, the tax collectors are taking a lot from us and we do not have enough to give them. Why not come together? Let's, farm together. So on each person's farm, they go in groups to work on each person's farm part-time and they called it Aro in the movie, so you go on this person's farm this time around to work. That's you've paid that person's arrow, and then when people come to your farm, rather, they've paid your arrow. That's basically what they told us in the story, and they did that continuously on other people's farm. But Lisabi, who was the sole bringer of the idea, had not taken his own arrow, and the friends were asking, okay, at what point do you want us to come on your farm and work for you? And it's like, don't worry, when it's time, you find out. And of course, when it was indeed time, he was able to put them together. And of course, they fought the people of Oyo. And it's a really interesting watch, if you ask me. And I'll just go straight into the introduction and the setup and how everything played out. So in the first scene, we saw the Alaafin, right? And then we also saw the King of Egba as a then King Olodun, and Femi Adebayo played the role of King Olodun. We saw him in the first scene. He had refused to pay tribute to the Alaafin, and then they dragged him, of course, to the palace, and he was, asked to be killed. And subsequently, they introduced us to Lisabi, a farmer who, was just living his normal life with his friends. And of course, we saw the tax collectors deal with the Egba people. We saw them oppress them from time to time, take from the little that they have, and we saw Lisabi's friend, Oshokenu. So Lisabi had a friend, Oshokenu. They introduced us into Oshokenu. They introduced us into how the tax collectors oppressed Oshokenu. They introduced us into how they killed Oshokenu. They introduced us into how Oshokenu's wife, had to commit suicide because these tax collectors as well raped her. And all of this played out in the movie. We saw the oppression that the Oyo people really did give the people of Egba. And I think that they really needed someone like Lisabi. But now turns out that this movie is not complete because there's a Lisabi 2, which there's a sequel, of course, to the movie, and we're yet to see that. And there are some unanswered questions as well in the initial story. And let's just go straight to the rating criteria. For the plot of this movie, I would say that the fact that we saw Lisabi, it's an original story, by the way. That's exactly what happened back then in the 18th century with the Oyo Empire and, of course, the Egba people, and which was all we saw play out. So I like that they told that story. And one interesting thing about this story is I've heard Lisabi in the past, but I didn't know who Lisabi was. So watching the movie, going back to read the story, and this person was originally known as Lisabi Agbongwakala. I mean, there's a lot of interesting twists. It's different from the normal Yoruba story or other epics that we've seen. We've seen other Yoruba stories evolve. The same story. We've seen movies about Basharuga come up again. Different people have played that, have created that, movie. But I'm seeing Lisabi for the very first time. And of course, it's also good to know that seeing a movie like this, you can actually go back to learn about who these people are. And it's also interesting that I'm seeing a lot of original Yoruba stories come up, take us back into the tradition, into the culture back in those days, and people that indeed fought for freedom back in those days. And it's still the same thing that we're seeing now. We're still seeing oppression. We're still seeing it play out in today's politics between the government and the people. And it just means that we still have the same things happening. It's just in a different form this time around. So for the plot of this movie, it tells the story of Lisabi, and I would say that I like how the scenes evolved, even though I would have loved that there was a narration in that part where we saw where people that do not know about Lisabi would, of course, there's a bit of introduction. There should have been a bit of introduction. There was a bit of introduction, but not, it wasn't strong enough. I'll say that it wasn't strong enough. We could have had narration from maybe each 3-4 scenes. After 4 scenes, we can have, another narration so that we understand where the story is coming from and where it's going to. But from how the scenes, came after one another, I would say that that makes a good plot for me for any movie. If the scene that comes after is, each scene gives birth to another scene. So it's a good plot. I like Lisabi's, the fact that Lisabi was, that's an engaging part of the movie. Lisabi's uprising, fighting for the Egba people. It's a really, interesting story. And of course, it's an original. So a good 8.5/10 for the plot. So for the attraction of the movie, which is the entertainment value, I would say that I was hooked from the start of the movie. The true story of Lisabi, his bravery in that movie is enough to entertain you from start to finish of the movie. I like that even when we're not seeing his power, even when he was just, a farmer, I could tell that this was one brave human being. And I particularly like his friend, Oshokenu. Oshokenu also, exhibited that bravery. And it just tells that this is Lisabi. Lisabi is like this and also surrounded about people rather with like mind. Lisabi is not just a farmer saying, okay, even in his selection of friends, it wasn't just random. He had people that were also similar to him, that were also like him, which was why at the end of the day, when he wanted to call and put all of them together and say, okay, I need your help. This is my own arrow. I want your help. I want you to help me. I think it was wise of him to have people in his space that he could actually call. Not everybody. Take it down to today. Today's world, 21st century, you have some people do not have friends that, I mean, when push comes to shove, you can call and say, okay, so I say that Lisabi also in his selection of friends, selection of people that he moved with was also very, wise, even though I did not see that coming. I didn't see the old Lisabi being a powerful person, especially with the old deity thing. He had, friends. I would say they're his friends or maybe colleagues. I don't know what to call them. But Lisabi's bravery in that movie hooked me from start to finish of the movie. So for the attraction of the movie, I'll give it a good 8 over 10. So for the theme of the movie, the theme explores oppression, it explores unity, it explores courage, and the theme it was executed in the movie. For the oppression part, of course, we saw the Oyo Empire oppress the Egba people consistently until they could do no more. We saw that play out, and Ibrahim Chatta did an amazing job. He did an amazing job. But of course, we're talking the team, we're talking unity, oppression, and courage. Unity in the sense of the fact that when they did unite together and say, okay, let's work on each other's farms so that we can have more proceeds to give to the other people. They, of course, that happened. And it shows how much you can do when people come together, when people unite together. The outcome sometimes is a lot more. Imagine the proceeds that they now had on their farms from working together as opposed to when they were just, doing it individually. And for courage, I'll say that Oshokanu was the highlight of that movie for me. His courage from start to finish. Even in death, even up until the point of death, he was indeed courageous. I saw these themes come out, in the movie one after the other. And I would say that they did an amazing job. For the theme of the movie, I would give it a good 8.5 over 10. So for the acting of the movie, I would say that these performances stand out. For Lateef Adedimeji, anytime I see Lateef on screen, I'm always overly excited because I know that he doesn't fail to deliver, and seeing Lateef, seeing Ibrahim Chatta play Shongode. Ibrahim Chatta wore that role. He embodied everything about Ibrahim Chatta in that movie was just screaming brilliant performance. I always expect a lot from Ibrahim Chatta, and he doesn't fail to deliver. But this time around, I think he outdid himself with playing the role of Shogudei. He was a true character, and I like that Lateef, being the producer of the movie, also played Lisabi. And I'll say that Lateef was very good with the Egba dialect thing. His acting was top notch, from even the support characters to the king's wives. Though some characters were not very good, with the Yoruba thing. Some of them were not even Yoruba. And I'd say that it's my own personal view. I think that if you are not Yoruba, a lot of people will say that if you're a good actor, you should be able to switch roles, even if you're not from this tribe. I'd say that it's not true, because an Igbo man would have an Igbo dialect, would have that Igbo tone. If you're Yoruba, you would have that tone as well. So it will, why take up a role that would not come to you, naturally? I'm not being tribalistic, but I'll say that if you're Yoruba, play Yoruba roles. If you're Igbo, play Igbo roles. Of course, we can all come together to do the English thing, but if you want to have Yoruba roles, go for Yoruba people so that they can express themselves fully in the movie. Trying to force down a particular dialect on somebody that is not from that tribe is difficult. Now, if you're Yoruba, it's easier to learn how to speak Egba compared to someone that is not even from that tribe. Because we're still speaking Yoruba, it's just the tone and all of that is different. But for the acting, they all gave it their best. Each person wore that character from start to finish. Seeing Licorice play a baby, and lots of other top actors in that movie. Amazing performance. 8.5 over 10 for the acting of the movie. So for the dialogue of this movie, I like the authentic Yoruba language. I like the depth. I like the Egba dialect thing. I like the reach. It was just rich in culture for this movie. And I'd say that, of course, the conversations didn't feel forced. They were conversations that were much needed in the movie. I would say that I don't think there was any part or any conversation in that movie that I'll say that was not needed. Every conversation added depth to the movie. And for the dialogue, it was a good job well done. I would say a 9 over 10 for the dialogue for me of the movie. So for the cinematography of this movie, which includes the lighting, the setting, wardrobe, and all that, I would say that beautiful colors, stunning colors. I like the setting. I'm not I think I didn't really notice, their Laughing's outfit, and all that. It seemed like, it was basic, but for the setting, I mean, it was later that I saw video where they talked about how they put all of these things together, and I'll say that they were very intentional from how they positioned the seat of their Laughing to the Oyomesi, the 7 rulers and all that, the 7 decision makers and all that. And I also like that they gave a reason for separating the Alaafin's chair, because then the Alaafin was actually indeed very powerful. When they say Alaafin, Kabiyesi, Alashe Keji Orisha, meaning like you're second in command to the gods. So I mean, you have to be far from the people. You can't be so close to, the same way you would not dare go near a deity or touch the head of Ogun or touch the, and all of that, or don't pour oil on the head of a particular deity. All of those things is the same way they regarded their Laughing back in those days. It was indeed very powerful. And I like the separation of the seed. I like the setting. I like that. I like the old thing on the wall. They now started to explain what each relic on the wall, meant and all of that. And it was indeed, I saw intentionality, with the cinematography, and they did an amazing job. I love the colors. I love how, they set the opening scene and all that. We saw also the Alaafin, baiting, and they, explained that it was baiting in Agbo, and all of that. And it was a tradition. I saw intentionality. It was just beyond, making a Yoruba movie with a normal costume. There was nothing basic about that movie. So for the cinematography, a good 9 over 10. For the editing of this movie, I don't really have so much to say on that. I'll say that the scenes didn't seem under-edited or over-edited. I think they did just the perfect job with editing, the movie from one scene to the other scene. I think it flowed. I like that the scenes flowed into each other. I didn't think that one scene was too fast or one scene was, overly paced or anything. So it was good for the editing of the movie. I'll give it a good 7 over 10. For the directing of this movie, Akim Molayo did an amazing job. I would say that I'm a fan, but at the same time, I'm not saying this because I'm a fan. I'm saying this because I saw intentionality with that movie. Because what sums up a good movie, when you're intentional about, because you cannot ignore this part of the movie and focus on one thing. And if you focus on one thing too much, or you focus on a particular character, it tells overall in the movie. So I'd say that I saw intentionality in that movie, from the producers to the directors, to the director rather. I'd say that they did an amazing job. For the directing of the movie, I'll give it a good 8 over 10. For the it factor, if you ask me, now I go ask. The it factor, it's a one-of-a-kind movie. It's a unique movie. It's good when you're telling an original, but it's also good when you give us the original like it was really the original. It seems like this is what I'm seeing it like, oh, this happened back then. Like, this really happened. So it's beyond just seeing a movie. This is not a fiction. This is non-fiction. This is exactly what happened back then. So if you ask me, for me, I'll say every original is one of a kind. Now, every original put together is one of a kind times 100. Lisabi, the Uprising, is one of a kind movie. For the it factor, I'll give it a good 9 over 10. Overall, from this end, Lisabi gets a good 8 over 10. It's a Netflix movie. I'm going to plead and beg. If you haven't seen that movie, I think see it for the sake of educating yourself. That's a start. See it because, and if you're Yoruba, you should see Lisabi. You are educating yourself about what happened back then, Yoruba culture. It's also more like you're going back and learning history. And of course, it's very important for everybody, for every Yoruba person, to know the history of Yoruba land, know the history of your culture and tradition. And it's also good to be deeply rooted in these things. So overall, Lisabi gets a good 8 over 10. It's a one-of-a-kind movie. It's a must-watch, You should see it if you haven't seen it. It's on Netflix. Go and watch it. With that, we've come to the end of Lisabi review on Relufe TV. Now, if you know any movie, you have any movie in mind that's going to come up and you want for us to review it, please just drop it in the comment box. And if you agree or you disagree with my final verdict on Lisabi, drop it in the comment box. But I'm waiting to see those that would disagree because I'm coming for y'all. Get a subscription if you haven't subscribed. If this is your first time passing by, click the subscribe button. And of course, follow us across all social media platforms. It is at Relufe TV. Until I come your way again next time on another episode of Relufe Review, my name is AY with the double O.